Watch this.
The Bench Lake fire is threatening the Redfish Lake Lodge, a home away from home for several Idahoans who are now trying to help keep the lodge afloat.
Yes, time matters.
Another failed levee means another emergency agency in an emergency, so they can get to your emergencies fast enough. Libraries are learning how to live within the newest law in the books about what books they can have on what shelves. But a few have figured out how to restrict those who want to restrict them. We've been keeping an eye on the Bench Lake fire burning south of Stanley right along Redfish Lake since it started on July 11th. It's now burned more than 2,000 acres. The area around the fire has since been evacuated. The Redfish Lake complex has been closed, and that includes the Redfish Lake Lodge, the campground, and then all of its amenities. We've also been keeping tabs on a GoFundMe, which was set up a couple of days ago to make up for the lost income for the owners of that lodge. Nearly $45,000 raised so far. And the ladies who started that online fundraiser, well, they call it our home away from home. Aspen Shumpert spoke to those ladies, and they, as I should say, had they referred to that as their home away from home.
Redfish Lake is the summer spot in Stanley, Idaho. The 95-year-old lodge is a home away from home for many.
Redfish Lake is an icon to everybody in this valley.
On Thursday, July 11th, a wildfire started near the lake, forcing the lodge and all its surrounding amenities to close until further notice.
I was actually camping at Redfish and got evacuated on Friday morning. We were just like, gosh, what can we do? We were all really upset.
Angie and her husband take their camper to the lake every year. They've gotten to know the lodge staff very well. Those in the area were told to evacuate. More than 100 lodge summer employees, along with a number of visitors, left belongings and boats behind.
I can't imagine the economic impact to the community. It's already impacting Stanley quite a bit. A lot of the businesses are putting the word out there like, hey, Stanley's open. We need you to come here and be tourists.
Angie and Trini spent summers on the lake for over 2 decades. They say they're Redfish Lake lovers. Them and a few others are rallying to help their cherished spot stay alive.
I have literally raised my kids there. My kids hung out at the dock. I mean, I hate to say it, but the dock boys were kind of their babysitter, and girls. They've done so much for everybody else. They're extremely giving people. And I literally feel like it's the least we can do.
The ladies' GoFundMe has raised over $42,000 in just 2 days. Although the lodge will need to refund reservations like concerts, the GoFundMe money will continue to pay their staff while the campus is closed.
He said 1 week, he could kind of handle, but 2 weeks, it's getting to the point where he's going to have to make some tough decisions. Does he start laying people off?
The girls hope the lodge won't have to make that decision.
And this is just one less thing that we're hoping that we can take off their mind, at least for a couple weeks.
The ladies hope the fundraiser can reach not just people in other parts of Idaho, but also many visitors the lodge gets from people all over the country. Brian?
Do they know how long the complex, not the complex, but the lodge will have to remain closed until they can get things under control?
Yeah, that's a good question. In last night's meeting where the community heard from fire crews, they're saying it's their top priority to get it open. That could mean next week. That could mean longer. You just have to see what's going to happen.
And still, that fire might keep people away. Even if it is open, they don't want to show up and have to watch that or be under a threat of that, I can imagine. So,
right.
Yeah, all right. So that GoFundMe is going to go a long way, hopefully.
Yeah,
all right,
hopefully.
Thank you very much, Aspen. Well, it is summer, and that means more vacation requests, of course, more traveling. Combine all that, though, with the 100 deadliest days, how people travel in cars when there is a spike in fatal and serious car crashes. That part is also leaving Canyon County Paramedics looking for help for themselves. If you remember, in May, they tried to get voters to pass a levy. That would have paid for additional staff. It would help get pay increases for the current staff. It would also add a new station to supplement new growth in the area and the call demands that go with it. And it will also update the old buildings they currently have. So there was a lot tied up into that levy. So they tried to pass it, and it failed. And as Hunter Funk learned, because that levy did not pass, crews continue to struggle to meet the demand. And those that call, well, they're seeing those paramedics show up with slower response times because, well, the lack of staff they have available.
understaffed.
We are understaffed. We are understaffed by 4 employees. We've chosen not to fill those staff positions. We are leaving them open because for fiscal 2025, we have to balance our budget without using fund balance.
Overworked.
This is a super busy time of the year with people out on vacation, call volumes higher, sick, work comp.
And underpaid.
Because of that lower pay, a lot of our staff have to have second jobs.
It's a combination the Canyon County Paramedics know all too well. The Canyon County Ambulance District Chief says there should be 8 to 9 ambulances up to help the current needs. But this week, a flat line.
Level 0 is when no units are available.
Level 0 is what Canyon County paramedics have heard multiple times. It means if you have an emergency, you might have to wait your turn because all of the units are out helping other people or there's not enough people to staff an ambulance.
In a way, is this a matter of life and death?
Time is of the essence to get you to definitive care. Not every 911 call is going to be life and death, but those critical ones, yes, time matters.
On Sunday, only 5 ambulances were available. On Tuesday and Wednesday, only 6. A pedestrian hit and run, a car crash. Crews were delayed in getting to the scene because they were across town or helping in another emergency.
You got the trauma, you got the deadliest 100 days. It is a busy time of year, and so with shutting down units, there's going to be longer response times.
The Canyon County Ambulance District does not get funding the same way firefighters do. It gets 30% of its funding from taxes. The other 70% comes from when patients use the ambulance and are charged for that service. A big challenge, though, came in 2002 when Medicare lowered the cost for users. Funding for Canyon County also went down. Then after May's levy didn't pass,
It was kind of like a gut punch.
it put crews in a tight spot. The $8 million levy would have updated current stations, add new vehicles, more staff, higher pay, build a new station to fill the gap in services, and rebuild the South Nampa station, which will soon be torn down. Now, to combat the low staffing, 14 paramedics are breaking up their shifts with more staff during the day and fewer at night. The chief says the funding model is not keeping up with the growth in the area, and in the last 5 years, calls increased 20%.
But that gives us the ability to try to have more ambulances up during the day. It does not guarantee that we will never shut a unit down. It just helps us to try to not shut them down during the day when the call volume is higher.
The strain remains. Now they're trying to get creative to lower the cost for a new levy.
We are going to run again in November. The needs are still there.
It would need to be passed by voters, and if passed, wouldn't go into effect until 2026. And the longer they wait, they say the more challenging it is to save lives.
We need that help, and we need that help to make sure that not only our patients are safe, but we're safe, and also our other first responder agencies like the fire departments and police departments are safe. When they have to wait, it can cause problems with the patients and with the providers as well.
Inadequate EMS funding is a statewide problem. The hope is that soon there will be legislation to make EMS an essential service and open the door for state funding down the road.
Yeah, it is a statewide problem. We've talked about this a couple of times. I mean, other places are dealing with this.
Yeah, 100%. We've heard from Valley County. I was also talking to the chief, and today he was like, I've been listening to those meetings. Nampa, we've heard Meridian, Boise. There's just a lot of people who are looking at levies to help EMS. So.
Gooding County, I believe, or Lincoln County, one of those two. I think it was there, Shoshone. We talked about them. And that was kind of the auspice to get this onto an essential service, to have emergency services declared essential services. That bill that was in the legislature this last session never made it out of committee.
Right, and they just hope that they can see another one.
All right, thanks, Hunter.
I feel like there are people out there who will take advantage of this law to try to push their agenda, that they can come in and require that we submit to whatever they feel like is right, even though they might never have set foot in this library.
Well, that was the fear of a lot of local librarians from around the state since House Bill 710 was signed into law. The new Children's School and Library Protection Act, the law that opens up libraries to civil lawsuits if they don't remove a book someone considers harmful to minors. since it went into effect the 1st of this month, which meant libraries and school districts that didn't already have a formal materials review process in place had to come up with one. And those that did, maybe they had to make some adjustments. So here we are a couple of weeks into that law being live, and we know of a couple of libraries that have revised their reconsideration policies, in a way putting some restrictions on who can ask them to restrict their books. You may remember the Meridian Library District was at the hub of a brouhaha over the books in their library, the poster child of porn in the library. There was even an attempt to dissolve the Meridian Library District, which went nowhere when it was made known how impractical that would be and that a vast majority of Meridianites actually liked the library the way it was. One could argue this public dispute set the stage for how we ended up with the library law we have now. So like that, because of this change in Idaho code, the district, the Meridian Library District, felt the need to rewrite what they've already had in place for years, and they're not the only one.
For as long as I've been here, for the last 13 years plus, we've had a collection development policy that had a request for reconsideration process as part of it.
But last month,
Madam Chair, go ahead. I move that we approve the collection development policy.
Thank you. Second.
The Meridian Library District Board of Trustees tweaked it a bit to accommodate Idaho's new library law.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
In their updated 18-page policy, they made it clear. Requests received from individuals or groups who do not use or have access to district materials will not be considered.
So part of the law and how we also have incorporated it into our policy is that a person must have physical access to the material in order to meet the definitions within the law. So if you don't have access to the material, you are therefore not an affected party.
Access to the material means anyone who can walk into any of Meridian's 4 libraries. Why not take it a step further and say you have to be a tax-paying citizen of the Meridian Library District?
We had looked at doing that. We weren't comfortable going that far because there's some vagueness to the new law, and we wanted to be sure that we were compliant with the law and the spirit of the law.
Well, you feel like you're following the letter of the law.
Correct. Yes, we do.
But in the Boise School District...
So there's a library in every one of our buildings, so that's like 53.
53. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, yes it is.
They felt following the letter of the law allowed for narrowing its focus. Do kids spend time in the school library?
Oh, definitely. It is like a social hub.
Are they checking out books?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they are for sure. Students, they read for pleasure. I mean, it might be a misnomer that they don't anymore, but they still do. They totally do.
A lot of kids coming in means a lot of books going out.
So we've had a reconsideration policy for, well, it's probably 30 plus years.
And over those 3 decades, you would think there'd be a few challenges with a few of them.
No, in fact, the one time that I can remember a book coming, it was like in the 90s.
So we have a motion for policy 2510, 2512, 2512R, 7410 to be effective immediately.
However, because of what went into effect July 1st.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those policies will go into action immediately.
Boise School District trustees revamped their request for reconsideration policy to specify any request had to come from a parent or guardian of an enrolled student.
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about was that it was really important to us that a student's ability to read was between them and their parent, and so we didn't want an outside influence impacting what a family wanted their student to read. Does that make sense?
It made sense to them after they got advice from lawyers, legislative liaisons, and the Idaho School Boards Association.
And one of the things that was a recommendation was that limit it to the people who are actually patrons of our libraries. And someone doesn't walk in off the street into a school library. It's a library for our students and our families. We want a diverse selection of books because what might not be, your student's cup of tea could be something that someone else really likes.
And so the change you made to the policy by narrowing it, you feel is following the law?
Yes, yeah, and that was something we were really careful about because, we're public servants, so our first job is to be compliant with what our state wishes, right? And then we do feel like we've got a good avenue for folks if they do have a concern. So I think we feel pretty confident about the direction we're moving in.
Beck also says she and the rest of the Boise School District, they were kind of worried about how they would apply the law once it went into effect, but they realized it's not as constrictive as they thought it might be, possibly because of how they've handled how they choose the books they have in their libraries already and how they handle any concerns with them, how they've been doing it for years. She told us it has always been better to deal with any challenge with a conversation, a human touch instead of, filling out a form. The same for Meridian. Nick Grove told us despite the dust up to dissolve the district a couple of years ago, that actually didn't change how they've done things for the last 100 years. Their goal is still to meet the needs of their patrons by listening to the residents to create a collection that is based on the needs and wants of the community. Meridian hasn't had any challenges since 2022, and neither Meridian nor Boise have had any challenges or requests for reconsideration since July 1st. The Bench Lake fire isn't the only one burning in and around the state of Idaho. Hunter Funk updates us on the other major wildfires in today's 411.
Right now, the Cow Valley fire in Malheur County is 77% contained. Crews don't expect the fire to spread any more than the 133,000 acres it's burned. All evacuation notices are lifted. The Texas fire in North Idaho is still 0% contained. 4 homes and 6 buildings were engulfed in flames in the fire near Kendrick. So far, more than 1,500 acres were burned. We still don't know what caused the fire. Police across the state are going to be cracking down on speeding. So far this summer in Idaho, 40 people have died in crashes, 114 people total this year. Aggressive driving was a factor in half of these crashes. The Idaho Office of Highway Safety says that speed limits save lives, and you can too by slowing down. Valley View School District is banning cell phones during school hours starting this school year. Valley View says cell phones are personal communication devices along with tablets, personal laptops, MP3 players, and electronic readers. High school and middle schoolers can't have any personal communication devices, including cell phones, with them or access the internet or social media from them on school property. Valley View Elementary students can have their personal communication devices in their backpacks, but they need to be turned off. Lucky Peak is cutting its boating season short. Next Monday, the water level at Lucky Peak will start to drop, then most of the marina will be closed the first week of August. All boating from the marina will be closed by August 29th. Those levels are dropping so the U.S. Army of Engineers can repair the Turner Gulch boat ramp. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Hunter Funk.
great day to be in the shade of a tree in the city of trees, because yes, once again, we've seen those triple digits for our afternoon temperatures. So we're actually at 102 right now over at the Boise airport, and the winds are on the lighter side, and we've got more dry air as well. So definitely feeling a lot more full swing of summer. We've got some of the hazy conditions with the wildfire smoke as well. And I wish I had a really nice, cool weekend forecast for you. But unfortunately, those temperatures are ramping back up into record-breaking territory for those individual days once again. So we've got 105 we're expecting for tomorrow, 106 and 107 for Sunday. And yes, it's getting even warmer on Monday. This is well above the average high of 94 for this time of year. So yes, we typically get triple-digit temperatures in the valley locations, but it's just so far for so above average for so long that we've seen in this particular stretch. So for Boise and Ontario, we'll see a little bit more of those smoky conditions. McCall will as well. And in general, the Central Mountains and Magic Valley won't be missing out on the smoke. They'll just see a couple more of those clouds. And we have some isolated chances for dry thunderstorms over in the Central Mountains tomorrow as well. However, it's a little bit more focused on the eastern side of those Central Mountain areas. So that's what's going on for tomorrow. Right now, we have been tracking more of those thunderstorms in the Magic Valley, but very few of them have actually made it into Twin Falls proper. A lot more of that activity now moving off to the east, but you can see how these storms are continuing to rotate with the high pressure system, and that high pressure will stay in place all the way through the weekend and through Monday. You can see it gets even stronger as we get closer to Sunday, and will peak in strength on Monday as those temperatures are expected to stay on the stronger side as well. So for your 7-day forecast, things staying on the hot side, and we will be seeing those temperatures stay exceptionally hot, and we'll be right back after this.
All right, welcome back. Let's get to your comments for today. This one from, well, I guess it'd be, let's go to the first one here. Librarians versus politicians. No contest, says PJ in Boise. Librarians are real leaders for education. Thanks for continuing your fight for education for all and every aspect of life. Oh, going backwards here, PJ in Boise said, well, no, she said this. It's still not coming up, so we'll figure this out. Susan in Eagle says, my infant son would have died if paramedics were not available. So basically saying, lawmakers, the very next life a paramedic saves could be your own. So let's get it together and see if we can figure it out in the legislature. All right. How about a story on how many levies have passed since we've had the influx of out-of-state residents? Well, you're going to want to maybe narrow that, because the influx of out-of-state residents goes back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the 2000s. So that's going to be a little tough to do. You know, it's been a long road for Meridian Library these last 3 years, says Brian. Respect for what Nick Grove has done to stay consistent and fair to all. Something we learned today, Nick Grove has been volunteering at a library since he was a teenager. It was his job through college. Just keep in mind, these people do this because they really like it and they really want to.